Alright, let's dive into this. If you're anything like me, you probably spent years watching Game of Thrones, getting super invested in the characters, plot twists, and all the shocking moments. But then came that infamous ending, and let's just say it was like ordering a gourmet meal and getting a cold slice of pizza instead. It was a mess, and honestly, I think a much better ending would have involved the White Walkers winning. Stick with me, and I'll break down why this idea is way more compelling and actually fits the tone of the series. First off, let's remember how the show built up the White Walkers as this massive, looming threat. From the very beginning, they were this dark, cold shadow creeping ever closer to the realm of men. We spent seasons watching the Night King and his army of the dead become more powerful, only for the final season to completely brush them aside. The whole "let's focus on petty squabbles for the Iron Throne" angle was a letdown, especially when you consider that the real existential threat was right there, just chilling in the north, waiting to wipe everyone out. Imagine if the show had leaned into that instead. Picture the realm divided and squabbling over who gets to sit on the Iron Throne while the Night King is methodically marching south. The North remembers, sure, but does anyone else? The politics of Westeros would be so much more interesting if they were overshadowed by the looming doom of the White Walkers. Instead of wrapping everything up in a tidy bow, the show could have created an atmosphere of growing dread. Now, let's talk about the Iron Throne itself. By the end of the series, the Iron Throne became this flimsy symbol of power that everyone wanted to fight over, even as the real threat was coming. The better ending? The realm stays divided, squabbling over this stupid throne while the Night King closes in. When he finally arrives, he doesn't need the Iron Throne. He's not interested in ruling with a crown. He just wants to eliminate all life. He could destroy the Iron Throne in a symbolic act of showing that human politics mean nothing against the relentless, icy tide of death. Imagine the visuals. The Night King, surrounded by his army of the dead, striding into King's Landing and just obliterating that symbol of power. That would have been a fitting, chilling moment to cap off the series. Instead of the messy resolution we got, it could have been a stark reminder that sometimes the things we fight for are utterly meaningless in the grand scheme of things. With the realm divided, you could see factions still fighting amongst themselves, completely ignoring the catastrophic threat that's just a stone's throw away. Cersei could be holed up in King's Landing, plotting her next move, while Jon Snow and Daenerys are off squabbling about who's got the better claim to the throne. Meanwhile, the North is too busy with their own issues, squabbling over loyalty and honor. Each of these factions would be so engrossed in their own drama that they completely miss the signals that the Night King is gathering power and his army is growing. While they're busy trying to outmaneuver each other politically, they fail to recognize that their entire world is about to be turned upside down. Consider this. As the White Walkers march south, they leave behind a trail of devastation. Towns and villages fall. Entire populations turn into whites, and still, the leaders of Westeros are too caught up in conflict to notice. The moment the news arrives that entire regions have fallen, it's too late. The threat is no longer a distant nightmare. It's a reality that has breached their borders. By the time they finally start to realize that they need to unite against this icy force, it's far too late. The White Walkers would have made significant strides, taking out entire armies without breaking a sweat. You could craft scenes where characters who once held such power and influence find themselves utterly powerless against the onslaught. Imagine Tyrion Lannister, always the clever strategist, realizing that his plans mean nothing against the inevitability of death. Maybe he could deliver a heartbreaking monologue about how they were so focused on the Iron Throne that they forgot to look north, a fittingly tragic commentary on humanity's flaws. Meanwhile, characters like Sansa Stark could be caught in a moral quandary, trying to rally the North but realizing that petty rivalries are preventing any sort of meaningful coalition. Even Bran Stark, who had spent so much time in visions, could finally return with dire news, only to find that the realm is too embroiled in conflict to heed his warnings. This would have been such a poignant moment, showing how even the most powerful visions can fall on deaf ears when humanity is distracted by its own ambitions. In this alternative ending, as the Night King and his army finally break through the defenses, we'd witness the total collapse of Westeros. The visuals would be haunting. cities burning, families being torn apart, and a world that once thrived reduced to icy desolation. The factions that once fought for power would be swept away, their ambitions shattered like glass. Think about how each character's journey could end. Jon Snow could face the Night King in a final stand, only to realize that all his sacrifices were for nothing as the icy hand reaches out for him. Daenerys, who fought so hard for her vision of a united kingdom, would watch in horror as everything she dreamed of crumbles in front of her eyes. Perhaps even Arya Stark, who trained for vengeance and survival, could find herself powerless against the oncoming tide of the undead. In this world, the Night King could represent a relentless force of nature, indifferent to human struggles and suffering. He doesn't gloat or revel in his victory. He simply destroys the Iron Throne, showing that symbols of power are meaningless when faced with true annihilation. The final shot could be of the cold, dark sky as snow begins to fall over the once thriving land, the sounds of battle giving way to an eerie silence. The last remnants of humanity would realize their greatest folly. Their division led to their downfall. One of the things that made Game of Thrones so compelling was its exploration of themes like power, ambition, and the nature of humanity. By choosing to have the White Walkers win, the show could drive home the idea that humanity is its own worst enemy. In their quest for power and control, they missed the greater threat until it was too late. This could also be a commentary on contemporary issues, reflecting how societies often prioritize internal conflict over external dangers. It could resonate with viewers, making them think about their own world where distractions can lead to negligence of pressing issues. The Night King's victory wouldn't just be a plot twist. It would be a powerful statement about unity, strength, and the importance of recognizing what truly matters. Let's delve deeper into the fates of key characters in this alternate ending. Each of them would represent different facets of human ambition and failure. Cersei Lannister would embody the dangers of unchecked ambition. As she fortifies King's Landing, convinced that she can outsmart her enemies, she receives reports of the Night King's advances. Her dismissive attitude, believing the threat is exaggerated, ultimately leads to her downfall. When the White Walkers finally breach the gates, the very castle she thought was impregnable crumbles around her. The audience would witness her transformation from the calculating queen to a desperate ruler, ultimately realizing too late that her throne was built on sand. Daenerys Targaryen, driven by her desire for power and a sense of destiny, could have a tragic arc. Her belief that she could unite Westeros under her rule blinds her to the encroaching winter. When she finally does gather forces to march against the Night King, it's a moment of desperation rather than triumph. Perhaps she could even face the Night King, dragon and all, only to find that brute force means nothing against the icy indifference of death. It would serve as a heartbreaking moment, emphasizing the futility of her quest for the Iron Throne. Jon Snow would grapple with his identity and sense of duty. Initially, he fights valiantly, believing that the true enemy is human nature, as no one wants to believe in the Night King to the north. They would much rather focus on themselves. As he watches his allies fall and the north crumble, he realizes that his loyalties have been misplaced. In a poignant final confrontation with the Night King, he would sacrifice himself not in a heroic act of victory, but rather as a symbol of the ultimate sacrifice made for a cause that was always out of reach. The moment would be tragic yet profound, emphasizing the weight of leadership and the burdens it carries. Sansa Stark, who has become increasingly astute in her political maneuvers, would face a heartbreaking dilemma. Her attempts to unify the North and assert its independence would falter as the threat from the Night King grows closer. Her character arc could highlight the struggle between preserving one's values and adapting to the harsh realities of survival. In the end, she might find herself leading the remnants of her people, desperately trying to protect them from the horrors of the undead. Let's also explore the fate of the North itself. Traditionally portrayed as the last bastion of honor and loyalty, the North's inability to unite against the White Walkers would serve as a powerful narrative element. As the South squabbles over the Iron Throne, the North is caught in its own struggles, between the feuding houses and the desire for independence. Imagine the Stark family grappling with their own internal conflicts while facing this external threat. Sansa, trying to assert her leadership, could struggle to bring the lords and ladies of the North together, but their loyalty to individual houses proves more powerful than any call to unite against a common enemy. Meanwhile, Bran's visions could become increasingly urgent, but the North's leaders, steeped in tradition and pride, dismiss his warnings as paranoia. This could culminate in a tragic moment where the North realizes that their beloved home is being turned into a frozen graveyard, and by then, it's too late to mount a defense. As the White Walkers approach, the series could build to a harrowing climax, a last stand against the invading forces. Imagine a desperate coalition of survivors from different factions gathering at Winterfell, the last stronghold left standing. This would be a powerful moment, showing that the characters who once fought for power are now united in the face of annihilation. However, this unification would be marred by tension and distrust, honoring the theme that unity is often born from desperation rather than genuine camaraderie. The battle scenes would be intense and chaotic, filled with moments of despair as beloved characters fall one by one. We could see Arya's skills put to the test as she fights valiantly, only to realize that her training was not enough against the overwhelming force of the dead. Her character arc could be punctuated by a heartbreaking moment when she confronts a White that was once a friend or loved one, forcing her to grapple with the loss and futility of her quest for revenge. In this dark ending, as the Night King and his army finally breach the defenses, the visuals would be haunting. Towns burning, families being torn apart, and a world that once thrived reduced to icy desolation. The factions that once fought for power would be swept away, their ambitions shattered like glass. We could witness scenes of chaos as the remaining characters, those who survived the initial onslaught, try to escape the destruction. The atmosphere would be thick with dread and despair, accentuated by the chilling sound of the Night King's laughter echoing through the air, signaling that he doesn't need to revel in victory. His presence alone is a testament to the futility of humanity's struggles. In a chilling climax, Jon Snow could face the Night King in a final stand. The two could meet on the battlefield as the remnants of humanity fight in vain around them. Jon, realizing that he is not fighting for the throne but for survival, would take a stand, only to be overwhelmed. The confrontation could be a mixture of fury and despair, showcasing the stark reality that even the strongest warrior cannot fend off the inevitable. As Jon falls, the Night King, instead of boasting or celebrating, would simply shatter the Iron Throne, a powerful visual metaphor for the destruction of ambition and pride. The throne would lie in ruins, symbolizing that the desire for power means nothing in the face of death. The last shot could be of the Iron Throne surrounded by the icy winds of winter, the snow beginning to cover it, erasing the remnants of the struggle for power. This ending would reinforce the show's core themes: ambition, power, and the dire consequences of division. It would illustrate that humanity's inability to unite against a greater threat ultimately leads to its downfall. The chilling notion that the very things people fought for were rendered meaningless by the White Walkers would leave a lasting impact on the audience. Moreover, it would serve as a cautionary tale about the nature of power and the perils of political ambition. In a world where death is just a winter away, the show would urge viewers to reconsider their priorities and the importance of unity in the face of external dangers. So there you have it. A better ending to Game of Thrones would have seen the White Walkers victorious, showcasing the futility of the characters' petty power struggles. It would reinforce the idea that when we're so focused on our squabbles, we can miss the real danger lurking just beyond our walls. Instead of a rushed, unsatisfying conclusion that left so many plot lines unresolved, we could have had a dark, haunting reflection on humanity's short-sightedness. By crafting this alternate ending, we not only honor the series' legacy of complexity and nuance, but also provide a chilling reminder that sometimes the biggest threats come not from enemies at the gates, but from within. The haunting image of the Iron Throne lying in ruins, a stark contrast to the lifeless bodies of those who fought for it, would leave a lasting impact. A reminder that some battles are better left unfought when the real enemy is lurking just beyond the horizon. In this vision, the Night King's victory would serve as a poignant commentary on the nature of power, ambition, and the true cost of division. As snow falls over the desolate landscape, it would echo the series' most profound lesson: that when humanity is fractured by ambition and ego, it becomes vulnerable to the forces of destruction that lie beyond its control. And in that chilling silence, we would understand that the end is not just a defeat, but a profound reflection on our own human condition.